Hi, today we will see about payment of a check. We have seen previous videos on banking. There are so many topics which got covered. You may subscribe to this channel and then find out the other topics that got covered. This may be useful for your exams. Those who are young bankers also will find it very useful. Today we will see what it is about paying of an instrument. As I told you, check is a negotiable instrument. Demand promissory note, bill of exchange. There are other two negotiable instruments that are there as described. Now, should the check be in a rectangular form only? Or should there be a prescribed printed format only? Only then the payment can be done. No, it is not like that. Check can be in any written mandate form. It need not be from the bank in a printed format. But then, how will you stop the payment in case you give it in writing your mandate? Many of the cases, the important parameter like date, amount in words are missed, and very importantly, signature part got missed when it was not on a prescribed format. And hence, bank came out with a specific format in a rectangular format where the necessary details are printed there on the top, and you need to fill those blank columns to make the payment by the bank. And check is necessarily to be presented in a bank, only then it will get paid. Mere keeping that in your hand, the bank is not liable to make the payment. An important thing, what are the things that needs to be properly filled on a check is the date column should be filled properly, payee's name should be filled properly, whether it is going to be payable to the bearer or order should be filled, then the amount in words should be filled properly, and that should match with the amount that is being written in digits, followed by a proper signature which is given to the bank. In case there is a change of signature, you need to update that in the bank, and then you should sign accordingly. So these are the requirements that are needed. So what are the advantages, as I told you, of using a printed format? Mainly, you will be in a position to stop the payment because it is serially numbered and it is very specific to your account only. And later on also, this can be retrieved in case of a reference. What is a stale check? So I told you about writing the date on the check. What is a stale check? What is a post-dated check? Stale check, you are all aware. Earlier, the validity of a check was for 6 months. It wasn't written anywhere in any law. That is why banking is all about practice and law of banking. But now, it is prescribed or it is detailed that a check is valid only for 3 months' time from the date of the check. So if you are presenting a check undated, anybody can fill the date and then make the payment. But then the life of that instrument remains valid only for 3 months, and hence the banks will not write the date on the check, and instead they will return the instrument, and the drawer of the check should write the date on the instrument. So that becomes valid only for 3 months' time from the date on which it is written. So then what is a stale check? Supposing I am writing a check of say 1st March 2022, that is valid for March, April and May end, and it becomes stale instrument after 31st of May, like 1st June onward, that becomes a stale. So validity of an instrument is 3 months from the date of the check. And what is a post-dated check? Supposing I present a check for a future date. It is written as say 15th April, and I present the check on 2nd April itself to the bank. The check will be bounced. It will be returned with the reason saying it is a post-dated instrument. So this is the difference between stale instrument and post-dated instrument. And there is also, say having worked in Mumbai and Gujarat, I have seen the numbers in a different format. So Hindi has a different way of writing the numbers, and that is acceptable as far as RBI is concerned. So the figures, if it comes in Hindi, you should learn that language. So I found very difficult when I first time saw those kind of checks for payment. It took a lot of time for me to understand 1 to 10 in Hindi. I learnt it and then I made use of it. So if the check comes in that format, you should honor the instrument. You cannot return the instrument. So mostly it is informed when the check is presented. If there is a difference between words and the figures written on the instrument, normally the bankers will go for words of the instrument as valid. However, to avoid the dispute between the customers and the bank, banks normally return the instrument, countermand instruments where the amount in words and figure are different. Rounded off to nearest rupees. Supposing a check is coming with 50 rupees, anything in 50 paisa and above can be rounded off. This is as per Reserve Bank of India July 2006 decision. The instrument can be made paid. Instrument can be paid, rounding off to the next higher value. Supposing 50 paisa and above can be rounded off to next, and below 50 can be ignored. So that way the payment can be effected on an instrument where paisa is mentioned. In case of current account, the checks will be honored in the chronological order of receiving. So many checks may come in a day in a current account. Supposing their balance is not coming into the requirement for honoring all the instruments, bank will honor those instruments which came as per the chronological order for the day. So what is material alteration and how is to be done? So any alteration which is done on the instrument, like which I told you, where we write those things, date, payee's name, words and figures and signature. Wherever there is a material alteration, that should be countersigned by the drawer in full. Initials are not accepted. In case you want to make bearer into order instrument, you just need to strike bearer, that's all. In case you need to cancel the order instrument and bring it to bearer, the drawer's full signature is required. So these are the main thing which you need to know about. About the material alteration and signature. What are the protections for a paying banker? Supposing there is a material alteration, but it's so nicely done that it does not appear to the normal eye that there is an alteration in that. So banker is protected by making this payment. So bank will be discharged of all the liabilities. Same way, drawer's signature, if it is forged, the banker is not given any protection. So if he pays the check with forged signature of the drawer, then banker becomes responsible for the instrument. But then there was a very which are the occasions where banker will get protection in case of this kind of forged instrument. There was a case which went in the court between United Bank of India and Ali Hussain and Co. This has happened in 1978 in Calcutta. 169 is the court number, case number. The facts of the case is like this. Mr. Ali Hussain received a check for rupees 5,200 from a customer who purchased some goods from him. They sent the check to the banker, Union Bank, and for collection. So when the collecting bank advised them that the check had been released, then the client has released the goods and then sold the goods. Subsequently, United Bank informed that the check is forged. Drawer's signature of the check has been forged. Payment is made by mistake. This was a claim from United Bank. However, the court found that the forgery of the signature on the check had been so skillfully done, even the customer could not find it out. So I had an opportunity to attend one of the cases in the court as a bank manager. They asked, the similar case was there where the signature was forged and the customer was saying, this is not my check, somehow the payment is made. So what the judge did is, judge has taken a photocopy of the check and cut that signature part, and then he took few more checks which is signed by the customer originally by himself, and then he also took the photocopy of all those signatures and he kept all those signatures on the table and ask the customer to identify amongst these 5 signatures which one is forged. So customer picked up one signature. Behind each sheet, the judge has mentioned which one is forged and which one is not forged. When the customer has given one signature saying this is forged one, the judge returned the page and then found out that was actually his signature. So the customer himself could not identify which one is forged. How the banker would be in a position to identify? So in such scenarios, the bankers get protection that a forged instrument payment, if it is so skillfully done, sometimes they get protection on this. So can a bank make a payment on a mutilated check? Mutilated meaning cut into pieces, those checks. Normally the customer should not make payment of the check. Even the corner of the check is torn. There may be a possibility that crossing is removed and then given for cash payment. So bankers should be careful not to make payment if the instrument is torn, mutilated. Can a banker make a payment after the banking hours? Like many banks, they display the banking hours in the entrance itself. So beyond the banking hours, bankers don't get any protection if the payment is made after the banking hours. So I'm not talking about business hours. There are two things. Banking hours is 9:30 to 3:30 for many banks, 10 to 2 for some banks. So it differs with bank to bank, which is displayed outside the entrance. So within that time only the payment has to be made. Beyond that, if payment is done, banker is not protected. So mode of presentment of the check, the customer has to present the check, only then the payment can be made. So otherwise the payment cannot be made. So can a banker make a payment for an order instrument? Order is bearer cancel. Order instrument, yes, banker can make a payment of an order instrument with proper identification of the beneficiary along with the documentary evidence. In case of a bearer instrument, once a bearer, always a bearer, so there is no risk involved in making the payment. So bearer instrument is relatively risk-free in making the payment. So as per the section which is mentioned in Negligence Instrument Act on the payment of an instrument, it says payment in good faith and without negligence. These two words are very important for a banker. You should trust the customer and make the payment. At the same time, there should not be any negligence in finding out the defect in the instrument when you are making a payment. So you should be judicious on making a payment for a customer when a check is presented on the counter. So which are the occasions where the check can be returned? When the check has material alteration, you can return the instrument. When the check is stale, then you can return. When the check is post-dated, you can return. When the check is presented after the banking hours, before the banking hours, you have the right not to pay. And then in case of a death of a drawer, more than the date of the death, the intimation given to the bank is more important. Supposing the customer is not available, means the customer expired on say 8th of March, and you got to know as a banker in a proper mode of communication on 10th of March. So in between 2 days, any check that got passed is valid. So it will not become invalid. The banker will be freezing the account once the death intimation is received by the banker. The time of receipt of the notice is more important than the time of death. Bankers should not rely on rumors. So that is already discussed. In case power of attorney holder who signs the instrument dies, you cannot stop the payment of the instrument because the main agreement between the customer and the banker is still valid. So you should take a signature of the account holder and then make the payment to the customer if it is presented. And then as we already told, if the customer became insane, when it is declared insane, then you have the right to refuse payment of the instrument. Now we have seen various methods where payment is being effected by the bank. We have also seen the various ways where the check can be returned by the banker. Say in case of post-dated check, stale check, and then if the check is drawn on another bank, now if it is anywhere instrument, then you can make payment in any of the branches. Need not be like certain branches have the limits for the day for an instrument. if you are accepting, means asking them for a loose leaf. So there is a limit in certain banks where the home branch and non-home branch categories are there. So that and then if there is an apparent material alteration, you can return the instrument. Where the signature is forged, you can return the instrument. And one more important point is, if the customer doesn't have balance in the account also, he will return the instrument. That is anyway goes without saying. So now it is quiz time. We have seen the topic in detail. We will see some of the questions and then try to find out what the answer is for that. Who can countermand the payment of a cheque? Obviously, it is only the drawer who can countermand. Which of the following does not amount to material alteration on a cheque? Changing the date of the cheque. Is it a material alteration? Replacing the name of the payee by another name. Is it material alteration? Conversion of order into bearer. Is it material alteration? Then the last one. Conversion of bearer into order. So which is not a material alteration. This is the last one. Bearer can be cancelled into order just by striking the bearer without signature of the customer. So this is not a material alteration. The last one. A banker should not refuse payment of a cheque if, under which circumstances he should not refuse. If the cheque bears more than 2 endorsements, he cannot refuse. So he can make the payment. In case of a bearer cheque, the paying banker gets statutory protection under section 85(2) if the payment is made in due course. What is the payment made in due course meaning? Payment in apparent tenor without negligence within the banking hours and where there is no material alteration. So that is the meaning of this. He gets protection if there is it's a bearer cheque and he makes a payment. While returning a cheque, a bank gives the remark, effects not clear, please present again. What does it mean? It means no liabilities lies on the banker. The cheque is already gone, some amount has to come in. So you present it. If the amount is coming back into the account, then the cheque will be honored. That is the meaning of this. 6th question. A banker is presented 3 cheques drawn on an account on the same time. Will it make payment of the cheques? So you have to make payment of the cheque in chronological order of the cheque. Chronological order of receipt of the cheque. Which cheques came first, second and third. Based on that you will make the payment. 7. A customer of a banker died at 8 a.m. on a working day. A cheque drawn by him earlier was presented to the bank at 11 a.m. The point is 8 a.m. he died, 11 a.m. you received an instrument. But you didn't receive the intimation. Keep in mind. The banker must refuse payment of the cheque if the news of his death received by him. So within which period if it comes to you, you will receive you will reject the payment. So meaning death has happened in 8, cheque is presented at 11. So interim time between 8 to 11, if you get an intimation of death, then you have the right to refuse the payment of the cheque. Then question number 8. A banker gets statutory protection under NI Act in case of order cheque if the following conditions are fulfilled. What are they? That is, endorsement is not valid in that case, so he gets protection. Question number 9. The order to countermand payment of a cheque, countermand meaning returning, not honoring, issued by a firm must fulfill the following condition. It must contain full details of the cheque. Full detail meaning cheque number, payee's name, date of the cheque, amount of the cheque. All these details should be there for stopping the payment of an instrument. Last question. While returning a dishonored cheque, if a banker states a reason which is not appropriate and which affects the reputation of the drawer, the latter, meaning the customer, can claim damages from the bank. So keep in mind, always as a banker, keep in mind that you have valid reason of returning an instrument. We have seen the reason for which you can return the instrument. So within that parameter, if it is there, you can return an instrument. So thanks. I hope it's a very big topic. I tried to cover in a very short time, in 20 minutes time, the important parameters. There are much more on payment of the cheque. There are so many case studies also. So any query you have, please put it in the description. I will try to answer those queries is being raised. Please share this to young bankers, commerce students and MBA students. it will be of immense help to them. I'm just sharing my knowledge, and I thought, whatever I learned, I picked up, I've seen, I will put it in a short videos, and that will be helpful for younger generation. Thank you very much for patiently watching my video. Subscribe to my channel and support. Bye.